God told me to warn you, chosen one. This is not an ordinary moment, and this is not a message you came across by coincidence. You are going to need to sit down, take a deep breath, and listen with your spirit fully open, because what heaven is about to speak over your life carries weight. This is not small favor. This is not a minor shift. This is not a simple word of encouragement just to help you survive another night. No, this is a clear dividing line in the spirit between what was and what is about to begin. The Lord is saying that the season you have been living in cannot remain the same. The delay, the pressure, the confusion, the hidden tears, the battles that made no sense, the doors that refused to open, the prayers that felt unanswered and silent. None of it was random, and none of it was wasted. You thought you were going through an ending that dragged on too long, but heaven says you were actually inside a divine transition. You thought you were being ignored, but God says you were being marked. You thought you were buried under waiting, but in heaven's view, you were being set apart, sealed, and prepared for something far greater than an ordinary life path. You are not just another person trying to get through life. You are not just someone hoping things get better one day. You are a chosen vessel. You have been called, separated, and reserved for a holy purpose. And that is exactly why the battle around your life has felt so intense. The enemy does not fight empty lives with this level of pressure. Darkness does not invest this much resistance into someone without destiny. What has come against you came because there is something on your life that is valuable, dangerous to darkness, and not easily replaced. Hear this clearly. God is not only about to comfort you, He is about to move you. He is about to interrupt patterns that have lasted too long. He is about to confront cycles that tried to define your identity. He is about to step into places that looked dead, delayed, and permanently closed, and declare that His timing, not your pain, will have the final word. The Lord is saying the old labels are breaking off. The old season is losing its grip. The old language of fear, rejection, disqualification, and disappointment cannot define your future anymore. You have cried enough under what was. You have bent low enough under what was. You have questioned enough under what was. And now heaven is releasing both a warning and a promise at the same time. Do not continue thinking like the old version of yourself that only understood survival, because you are stepping into a shift that requires agreement, readiness, and bold faith. There are moments when God speaks gently, and there are moments when He speaks like thunder, because the seriousness of the moment does not allow partial attention. Even pain itself has been used as a signal. It has been a way to wake you up, to pull you out of spiritual sleep, and to make you aware that something deeper is happening. That is why this season has felt so loud in your spirit. Heaven refused to let you miss the moment right before your turning point. The pressure was never proof of abandonment. It was proof that something had to break open. Something had to awaken inside you. Something had to come alive before the next door could be opened. This is why ordinary reassurance no longer satisfies you. This is why your spirit has been unsettled even when nothing visible has changed yet. God is telling you that what is coming is bigger than what you asked for when your prayers were coming from pain. He is not preparing a small repair for your tired heart. He is preparing movement. He is preparing separation. He is preparing divine acceleration. He is preparing to clearly distinguish your before from your after in a way that even you will not be able to deny. And because this word is not casual, your response cannot be casual either. If this is resonating deep inside you, if something within you is stirring because you recognize that heaven is speaking directly, then respond with faith. Declare it with your mouth and heart. I am chosen, and I will not miss my time. Speak it as agreement with what God is saying over your life. Share this message with others who need strength before their season shifts, because what comes next will show you that the silence was never empty. It was sacred. Heaven did not lose sight of you in your wilderness. The God who formed you has witnessed every silent struggle, every exhausted prayer, every night you held yourself together in private while appearing strong in public. Not a single tear was ignored. Not a single sigh was missed. Everything that felt invisible on earth was fully seen in heaven. The Lord says what you called abandonment was actually a place where He stayed closest to you. You misunderstood silence as distance, but it was not distance. It was depth. It was a hidden place where God does His deepest work, away from noise, away from attention, away from voices that could never understand your calling or your process. There were days you watched others move forward while you remained in what felt like the same painful chapter. Others celebrated, progressed, built, and moved ahead while you stayed in waiting, wondering if your name had been forgotten. You tried to remain faithful. You tried to stay kind. You tried to keep your heart clean. You smiled through pain and spoke the right words, but inside there was still a question you rarely admitted. Did God pass me by? And heaven answers that question clearly. No, He did not pass you by. He held you when you could not feel Him. He preserved you when you thought you were barely surviving. He hid you because what is marked by Him cannot be exposed too early. Look at the example of the wilderness. What seemed like rejection was actually the place where God revealed Himself. What seemed like the end became the place of encounter. The wilderness did not destroy you. It exposed your need. It stripped away false security. It removed things you were leaning on without realizing. It positioned you for an encounter you would never have experienced in comfort. That is why this season felt so painful. God was not working on the surface, He was working deep within. He was touching identity, dependency, hidden fears, and misplaced trust. He was teaching you to live under His voice rather than human approval. He was showing you that being hidden is not being forgotten. Being delayed is not being denied. Being broken before Him is not being abandoned by Him. In fact, some of the strongest evidence of God's nearness is found when everything else is removed, and only His voice remains steady in your life. That is why your story cannot be measured only by visible outcomes. Heaven measures endurance, faithfulness in silence, obedience in dryness, and a heart that refuses to become bitter in disappointment. You were not wasting time. You were being formed. You were being shaped into someone who does not collapse when external comfort disappears. You were learning to trust in unseen places, pray in empty places, and remain faithful in silent places. That kind of formation is not shallow. It is deep work, and it takes time in hidden seasons. So understand this clearly. Heaven has not ignored you. Heaven has been working too closely, too carefully, and too intentionally in your life to abandon you now. What you called delay was preparation. What felt like pause was process. God was not holding you back because He had nothing to say. He was holding you because He was working on something inside you that had to be ready first. This season has not been random discomfort. It has been shaping. It has been inner surgery. It has been God dealing with what you could not see in yourself. Think of the journey of those who were called before you. Their process often looked like contradiction, but it was preparation. Their delay was not denial, it was development. In the same way, what felt like restriction in your life was often protection. Some doors were not opened because they would have harmed you. Some timelines were not fulfilled because they were not aligned with who you are becoming. God saw what you could not see. He protected your future by slowing your pace. He refined your inner life so that what is coming will not destroy you when it arrives. The waiting was never empty. It was alignment. It was God preparing your inner world to carry the weight of your calling. And now understand this. When God finally moves, He does not move in fragments. He moves with purpose, with weight, and with clarity. And when that movement begins, it will show you that every hidden season had meaning, every delay had purpose, and every silent moment was part of preparation for what is now about to unfold. When the door opens, you cannot remain standing there frozen, held back by memories of past disappointment. When the river splits, you cannot keep speaking as though it will never happen again. When God says, "Now," you cannot respond to Him using the language of your old season. This is the reason the wilderness had to train you in obedience under pressure. This is why silence had to sharpen your ability to discern. This is why delay had to reveal every hidden place in you that still bowed to fear. Because when the sudden moment begins, heaven will not slow itself down just to match your hesitation. God is not getting ready to tease you with possibility. He is preparing to challenge everything that declared your life would remain stuck. And nowhere will that become more intense than in the relationships tied to your destiny. What God is forming in this area is not shallow affection, not temporary comfort, and not emotional distraction meant to make waiting easier. This is about covenant. This is about alignment. This is about who will stand next to you when the weight of your calling becomes visible. That is why this part of your life has felt so painful. You watched others find love, build homes, share joy, and step into companionship you once believed would already be yours. And if you are honest, the ache was not only loneliness, it was also confusion. You questioned why something that seemed so natural for others became such a struggle in your own journey. But the Lord is meeting that pain with truth. The delay was never proof that you were unwanted. It was proof that heaven refused to place you in the hands of something that could not carry your assignment. Ruth did not enter Boaz's field by accident. What looked ordinary was actually divine arrangement. God was already weaving provision, timing, protection, and covenant together before either of them understood the full picture. That is the same pattern over your life. You are not being asked to chase what is real. You are being prepared to recognize what God has already established. And that requires more than attraction. It requires healing. It requires maturity. It requires spiritual strength. A wrong relationship can do more than hurt your emotions. It can weaken your discernment, blur your identity, damage your prayer life, lower your standards, and connect your future to someone who cannot carry where God is taking you. That is why some connections had to fall apart. That is why some almost relationships collapsed right before becoming serious. That is why some doors in love closed so suddenly it shocked you. It was not always punishment. Sometimes it was protection. Sometimes it was mercy, stopping what your emotions would have accepted, but your destiny could not survive. The Lord is not writing a rushed love story for you. He is guarding a covenant strong enough for purpose, sacrifice, obedience, warfare, and glory. He is not only preparing someone who admires you, He is preparing someone who can stand with you, pray with you, build with you, endure with you, and remain faithful when obedience becomes costly. While He has been shaping you, He has also been shaping them. He has been confronting immaturity, exposing hidden patterns, purifying motives, and teaching what love looks like when it is surrendered to Him instead of driven by need. So do not call it absence when heaven calls it preparation. Do not call it rejection when God calls it protection. The delay has been intense because the covenant attached to your life carries weight. And if God has guarded this area so carefully, you must understand something deeper. His work is never limited to relationships alone. If you sense God revealing truth about covenant in your life, respond in agreement right now. Declare inwardly or outwardly, God is guarding my covenant, or I will not settle for anything less than God's will. Let that be your agreement with what heaven is doing beyond what you can see. Like this message, subscribe and share it with someone whose heart has been wounded through relationships, because they need to understand that not every ending was rejection. Some endings were rescue. Stay with this, because what follows is bigger than relationships. God is speaking over every area of your life. This message does not stop at love, because heaven is not restoring one part of your life while leaving the rest broken. God is dealing with the whole structure. He is touching your finances, your health, your calling, your work, your daily provision, and even the private areas where you quietly wondered if anything would ever change. Some have been grieving over love, but others have been grieving over bills, exhaustion, delays in career, and dreams that once felt alive but now feel buried under survival. Yet the Lord says none of those places are ignored. None of them are unseen. None of them are marked as unimportant in heaven. Every closed area has been noticed. Every delayed area has been measured. Every weak area is under his hand. Think about the widow of Zarephath. She was not standing in abundance. She was standing at the edge of lack, holding almost nothing, expecting an ending. But when the word of the Lord met her there, scarcity did not win. God did not first give excess. He first sustained her. He carried her through what should have broken her. That is how heaven works. God first reshapes trust before he reshapes circumstances. For many, delay in provision was not only about money. It was about learning not to worship stability more than obedience. For many, delay in healing was not just physical. It was God uncovering hidden exhaustion, emotional weight, and patterns that could not move forward unchanged. For many, delay in calling was not failure. It was protection from building your life on the wrong foundation. As C.S. Lewis once said, "You cannot get second things by putting them first." That tension explains so much. You wanted breakthrough, but God wanted alignment. You wanted answers, but he wanted order. You wanted open doors, but he was rebuilding your inner structure so you would not collapse after walking through them. So hear this clearly. God is not withholding to harm you. He is arranging, correcting, and preparing what fits his purpose for your life. And if many areas have felt pressure at once, you need to understand why it has felt so targeted. The intensity was never random. There is a reason the pressure felt focused. The fatigue felt unusual. The discouragement felt heavier than normal. The battles seemed to rise from every direction at once. It is because the enemy does not react strongly to emptiness. Darkness pushes hardest when something is being built. Look at Nehemiah. The moment he began rebuilding the wall, opposition increased. The resistance did not mean he was outside God's will. It proved he was threatening what the enemy wanted to keep in ruins. That same pattern is happening in your life. The warfare increased because restoration was increasing. The pressure rose because structure was being rebuilt. Much of what you have faced was not random emotional struggle. It was strategic interference, confusion at the wrong time, weariness at the wrong time, distraction at the wrong time, temptation at the wrong time. These are attempts to make you step back right before breakthrough. But pressure is not always failure. Sometimes, pressure is evidence that you are standing at the edge of something being formed. That is why you cannot interpret this season only through natural thinking. If you do, you will mistake resistance for defeat and warfare for abandonment. Nehemiah did not stop building when threats increased. He kept building with awareness. One hand worked, the other stayed ready. That is the posture being shaped in you now. God is teaching your hands to fight and your spirit to remain steady. He is building discernment where confusion once lived. He is building endurance where you once gave up quickly. He is building authority where collapse was expected. So, no, this is not proof your life is cursed. It is proof your life carries weight. Something in your future matters. Something in your obedience affects more than you see. If you remain faithful in this season, keeping your peace, your purity, your courage, and your yes to God, you will not leave empty. You will leave with spiritual strength, insight, and authority you did not have before. That is why pressure increased, not because God left, but because the wall is rising. And when the wall rises, breakthrough is not far behind. There are always signs when breakthrough is near. One of the most important lessons is learning how to recognize them without misunderstanding them. People often expect breakthrough to feel peaceful and easy at first, but often the beginning feels uncomfortable. Pressure increases, resistance sharpens, old thoughts return, old habits try again. Small conflicts feel bigger than normal. Without understanding, it feels like going backward. But in truth, it can mean you are pushing against the edge of change. Elijah understood this. In drought, there was no visible sign of rain. Then a small cloud appeared, the size of a hand. It was not the storm yet, but it was proof that change had begun. That is how breakthrough starts. Small signs carrying big meaning. A new stirring in your spirit, a return of strength, a sudden dislike for what once held you, repeated confirmation through prayer, scripture, or conversations, doors closing without explanation, not as loss, but as redirection. Even your inner life begins to shift before outer change appears. Your prayers change, your thinking changes, your desires change. What once satisfied you no longer does. That restlessness is not instability, it is preparation. It is God loosening your grip on the old season. Do not ignore small signs. Do not dismiss them because they are not full manifestation yet. Small signs matter because they confirm the drought is not the final story. When God begins to speak in signs, the question becomes, will you remain passive, or will you move in agreement? Breakthrough is not carried by emotion alone. It is carried by agreement. Noah built the ark before rain appeared. He responded to a word, not visible proof. That is the same posture required now. If God is speaking about movement, make space for movement. If He is speaking about healing, stop feeding what keeps you bound. If He is speaking about provision, shift your stewardship. If He is speaking about calling, stop hiding your obedience. Agreement becomes visible in action. What you release, what you restart, what you confront, what you finally stop delaying. Faith makes room. Faith prepares. Faith builds before evidence appears. So the question is simple now. Will you remain a spectator, or will you step into agreement with what God has already spoken? This is the line you cannot stand at forever. You have heard the message, the warning, the promise, and the instruction. Now the decision remains. You cannot move forward carrying old fear, old bitterness, old identity from your broken season. If God is shifting your life, you must release what kept you bound. Lay down grief, delay, hidden unbelief, and every agreement you made with hopelessness. This is a full surrender moment. Pray with sincerity. Father, I give you my past, my pain, my waiting, and my future. I break agreement with fear, delay, shame, and unbelief. I receive your timing, your correction, your healing, and your direction. I release what cannot go with me. I say yes to the new season. Strengthen me to obey. Cleanse my heart. Restore what was broken. Align my life with your will. Let what you started in me be completed. If this is your prayer, let your response be simple. My season is shifting, and I say yes to God.